What's up, sports bettors? We cashed our last entry on PrizePicks. It was a 6-pick flex play, turning 75 into 1875. So what I have for today is 11 player props. 6 of them are on PrizePicks, 5 of them are on Underdog Fantasy. So again, 6-pick flex plays. The implied odds are roughly minus 119, so it's advantageous. And then on Underdog Fantasy, you basically always want to be playing 3-pick and 5-pick entries because the implied odds are best at minus 122. So you'll notice on Underdog, you're not really going to see me play 2-pick entries unless it's for a promo. So this was for a promo, for the World Cup. But in general, I'm always playing 3-pick, right, and 5-pick entries on this platform. So let's dive into it. Let's get into some of the plays I have. And again, it's free to browse odds on OddsJam. The entire point of OddsJam is you have like 50 sports books in the United States, Canada, Europe, whatever, right? You have all these fantasy platforms like Monkey Knife Fight, PrizePicks, Underdog. So what OddsJam does is it consolidates all the data for you, updates it in real time, which ideally makes it easy for you to find value. And it's free to browse odds on OddsJam. So an example of one of the first picks I went with is right here. And you can find this by just like line shopping. This is called line shopping, browsing odds. And what you'll notice is Underdog Fantasy, they have Alex Pierce, his receptions total, his over-under at over-under 3. All of the sports books are at over-under 2.5. Slightly juiced towards the over on most sports books. You can see Pinnacle, the sharpest bookmaker in the world. They have over 2.5 receptions at minus 126. But again, like Alex Pierce, his distribution is so low, right? It's centered around 2.5 receptions. So in almost every game, the probability this guy has 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 receptions is probably like 90%. The probability he has 3 receptions is probably like 25%, 20%, right? So being able to get under 3 when all of the sports books are pricing this at over under 2.5, you can see PrizePicks also the same. They basically have identical odds to Underdog Fantasy in most ways. They have the line at over under 2.5. So on Underdog Fantasy, that extra half reception, where if Pierce has exactly 3 receptions and we take his under, we're going to push. Everyone who betted on the sportsbook is going to lose. So we found value on the under, right? And this play was found on the OddsJam screen. So I use a bunch of different tools on OddsJam, and I say this all the time, but there's a lot of ways to skin the cat. Basically, you're just looking for enough value to beat the vig and beat the juice. You're never going to win every bet as a sports bettor. Even the sharpest of the sharp sports bettors, they don't win every day. So what I noticed on the OddsJam screen, just browsing around this market, player receptions, is wow, Underdog Fantasy. So let's get out of that. Underdog Fantasy, they have his line at over under 3. Right? PrizePicks is at 2.5. These platforms essentially work the exact same way. So if there's a half-yard difference in a reception, we're not talking about an NBA point total being 220 versus 220.5. This is 2.5 versus 3, right? A lot more impactful. And then you see all the sports books are at 2.5. It makes us really like the under on Underdog. So you can let me know if that doesn't make sense, but this is one of the first plays I absolutely loved on Underdog. So I'm just scanning for discrepancies. Then I'll take you to another one. Terry McLaurin, under 5 receptions. PrizePicks has his line at 4.5. All of the sports books have his line at 4.5. We're able to get under 5. You'll actually notice Pinnacle. So right here, you can see here, Pinnacle, the sharpest bookmaker in the world. So if we scroll over, they actually have the under 4.5 receptions favored, and we're getting under 5 at minus 122 implied odds when Pinnacle has the under 4.5 at minus 129. We're getting under 5 at minus 122 when they have the under 4.5 at minus 129. So granted, most sportsbooks have the over juiced, but Pinnacle started ripping lower towards the under. So being able to get under 5 when the sharpest bookmaker is now pricing under 4.5 at minus 129 seems pretty good. So that's the second play I went with. Then I went with Saquon under 3.5 receptions right here. And then we can see what else did I go with. I think I went with 2 hockey plays. So we have Saquon under 3.5 receptions, which is just from the EV tool. So again, like on OddsJam, it's free to browse odds right here, right? Any game you want to look at, any league you want to look at, right? And it will auto detect the sports books you use depending on your location. Every location has different sports books. And it makes it really easy to like find value, right? You can scan lines manually and search for value. The screen is just another presentation of the data, right? I said this earlier, but like there's thousands of odds on Underdog Fantasy, tens of thousands, if you wanted to look at them all. There's tens of thousands of lines on PrizePicks right now. You're not going to be able to scan them all manually and search for value. Or if you did, it would take you all day long, all night long. The purpose of OddsJam is to create a bunch of tools like the screen, which make it easy to like very quickly see these discrepancies. So for example, here's another one. I literally just like scan. I'm like, where are PrizePicks and Underdog different? Because these platforms work the exact same way. Typically when they're different, that signifies an opportunity, especially when the distribution is so low. So here we can see Brandon Ayuk. PrizePicks has his line at over under 4. Underdog Fantasy is at 4.5. All the sports books are at 4.5, and they have the over juiced. So being able to get over 4 at minus 119 seems good, when Underdog has the line at over under 4.5, and the sports books have it at over under 4.5 with the over juiced, right? If he has 4 receptions, we're pushing. Everyone else who places a bet on Underdog or the sports books is losing, right? And then this EV tool, the EV tool is pretty simple. It literally just scans the market and shows you where the value is. So like Travis Kelce, we're getting him over 6.5 receptions on PrizePicks. So if we go back to the screen, you can see Underdog Fantasy has his line at over under 7. So it makes sense, right? Often when there's these discrepancies, you'll notice one of the plays is positive EV. You'll notice that as well for Dalvin Cook and Corey Davis. PrizePicks has the line at 2.5, Underdog 3, and what you're going to notice is they're both right here, right? We're getting Dalvin Cook over 2.5 receptions. All the sports books have the over heavily juiced. Frickin' Pinnacle, sharpest bookmaker, has this minus 159. So I took Kelce over, Cook over, Corey Davis over, Robert Woods under 36.5 receiving yards, and I have a 6-pick flex play on PrizePicks. It only let me bet 80 for a max win of 2,000, so here's what I went with. Brandon Ayuk, again, we found that play on the screen. PrizePicks is at 4. All the sportsbooks are at 4.5. They have the over juiced. Seems pretty good. EV page, EV page, EV page, EV page, and then Saquon, I'm middling. Right? So hopefully Saquon has exactly 3 receptions, because I took his under on Underdog Fantasy and I took his over on PrizePicks. I middled it. $80 to win 2K, and this is a 6-pick flex play. Now on Underdog, here's what I went with. So McLaurin under 5 we went through, Pierce under 3 we went through, Saquon, that was an EV play, and then it's the same strategy right here, right? Why is Underdog at 3 when all the sportsbooks are at 2.5, barely juiced towards the over, very slightly? That seems like good value being able to get the under. So also a couple hockey plays. So again, here's what I went with on PrizePicks, 6 player props. Here's what I went with. This is being middled. Hopefully Saquon has 3 receptions because we have his over 3. So if he has 3 receptions, we'll push on PrizePicks. My 6-pick flex play will turn into a 5-pick flex, and we'll cash this under. So here's 5 picks to win 2.5K. Let's make money.